Going beyond the headlines. Asking the questions you want answered. Exploring government policies and how they impact you. We are delving deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Delving Deeper. I am your host, Diana Carter. Joining me this evening is Transport Commissioner, Mr. Clive Clarke. Good evening, sir, and welcome back to the show.
Good evening, Ayana.
Now, you've been in the news a lot lately, so we're going to start with some of the issues that came out of, your appearances in the news. So, first of all, we've been seeing an increase in the number of officers out on the road doing exercises, road exercises. Have those been yielding results?
Well, again, I wanted firstly take the opportunity to thank you for inviting me to your program. One of the things I need to clarify at this juncture is the fact that we have been seeing a number of officers, and you are right, you have been seeing a number of police officers, and you have been seeing a number of transport officers, better known as licensing officers on the nation's road. And therefore, these are what we refer to as joint exercises, coordinated by the police and whereby we are providing a level of assistance. Yeah, and I want to say every single road exercise, operations of those nature yield results. Matter of fact, we are dealing in a particular environment whereby we are mindful of a number of offenses are currently taking place relevant to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. We have seen persons continue to drive contrary to the regulations, contrary to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, and therefore we take the opportunity via our road exercises to treat with some of those issues. I also need to point out, though, as I said, it's a joint operation. So on those exercises, the police, apart from looking for offenses relevant to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, they have certain offenses that they are looking for also, certain persons they are of interest. And therefore, again, they have their separate, what I will call monitoring factors or attributes in what they view as success. For me as Transport Commissioner, it has been a rounding success.
Okay. What sort, you mentioned that there were persons being charged or cautioned about, some of the stuff that they're doing on the road. What sort of incidents are you seeing why persons are being stopped and charged or ticketed?
All right, let me say though, when I say success in the context of road enforcement, we look at road enforcement from the licensing side of things as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to inform persons. It's an opportunity to educate persons about what is wrong and what is right. And sometimes as we provide that opportunity, sometimes we have to carry out what we call rigid enforcement. We have to issue tickets here and there. As you may know, we call it fixed penalty notice under the new system. And what we continue to see though, we continue to see persons driving without insurance. That's a serious offense. Driving without seat belt. Driving with vehicles not being inspected. Driving with smooth tires. Persons sadly continue to drive while they are disqualified. And again though, this in itself does not necessarily impact just the driver, but we need to be mindful of persons who may, for some reason, may get into an accident or so because of that errant driver may find themselves in problems. For example, someone not having a valid insurance, someone not having the class to drive the vehicle for we found persons at that point in time operating. And we are saying though our presence is one that as I said, we take the opportunity to inform and to educate and to curtail some of the problems we are seeing.
Okay. Now, one of the issues that was addressed the last time you were on Delving Deeper was the issue of corruption within the licensing division. Have you been able to make any headway where this is concerned?
You know, it's interesting you use the word corruption. Let me just say though, the approved vision for licensing office is to be, one of the main aspects of that vision is to be an exemplar in government service through innovation and technology to bring about that change, and also to bring that level of transparency and accountability. And as Transport Commissioner, my responsibility is to ensure we maintain that vision with the objective to meet our mission. And licensing department has a stigma, with all due respect, as well as it has that where persons are always concerned as to what is right and what is wrong within the organization. And I want to say how we are seeking to address some of those situations is to continue to implement systems whereby we can provide a level of audit trails in the event of certain in eventualities. In addition to that, the objective is to make that service much easier and accessible to members of the public, to allow different options and ways of doing business. For example, you should be able to visit the licensing office and not necessarily have to line up in long lines at the cashier. Hence, we are working towards implementing the kiosk. You should be able to come at licensing office and request and have a certified copy printed and leave with it without interfacing with anybody from the public, simply by walking to a kiosk and putting your vehicle number, click a number of buttons, and leave with that certified copy instantly. We are providing opportunities where you can renew your driver's permit from home, have it mailed to you at your home, as well as if you're overseas, have it mailed to you. In the event you don't want to come to license pass certified copy, you could acquire it online. And I'm saying that once we provide services options, and we as well as provide opportunities whereby persons on premise could more or less request those services and access those services much easier, it will help a number of the problems traditionally we continue to face at the licensing office. I also want to add though that it's important for me to say though that there are a number of support systems to the license, to me as commissioner, and as well as to help staff. So training is essential for us. So we are seeking to provide that level of training for staff to help them learn the new systems. We also discover at several licensing sites, and even sometimes at one site, one individual may have a complete different way to which they conduct a transaction or a process to the person standing right next to you. And therefore that now spills over to the customer being told several different things. And then at the wider sites, you have the impact, and some negative impact as a result of such. So we are seeking to implement desk manuals for staff so we could allow a level of synergy in place. We are seeking to put those sort of that information on the manuals online. So when you come to licensing, you know exactly what is required. Apart from the training systems, we have also have the support from that of the HR department, who assist us with discipline measures in the event we have staff who may choose to go contrary to policies and procedure. And more importantly, we have had tremendous support from the TTPS relevant to matters of fraud within the licensing department. And I'm saying because of that, I am convinced as commissioner that we will be able to reach to that point where we will be an exemplar in what we do in all government agencies.
Yeah. No, I, for one, am very excited when those new systems come into play,
Yes.
especially online. How soon do you think that we can see those things coming into effect?
Oh yes, and I am pleased to say, in support and more or less to reiterate what the minister was saying in public recently, you will see a number of those systems coming in place before the end of this financial year. Currently, we are at the phase of testing. For example, if I take the online renewal for driver's permit, that system requires several stakeholders. It requires TT Post, who will be mailing that item to you at home. It requires the officers, when I say this, the member of staff, who when you apply online, who will be more or less having that print and package and so forth, and as well as the TT Connect Center as an option. So we are currently testing the workflows. The software application is about 95% completed, and we are also seeking to finalize the contract with the merchant bank, so that we can allow for what we call that merchant ID for online payment. And the way things look like, if I have to give a timeline, my PS don't like me to give me timelines, but because we are so advanced in testing, I see these things coming into play probably within the next 6 to 8 weeks. We should be rolling out the renewal system. Online certified copies, we intend to roll that out, but 2 to 3 weeks after. Our intent is not to bring all these systems one time. It could be a problem. From Monday, we will be launching on a pilot basis at the county office, whereby you can pay at a kiosk for when you apply for certified, when you come to finalize your transaction for a provisional permit, or so, and then that will be expanded to all other services and licensing where you can pay via kiosk.
Okay.
And I just point out 3 systems. There are there are others that you will be able to see coming online soon. Let me just highlight one more: registration of a vehicle. We strongly believe that once we could have what we call pre-access to documents submitted, we should be able to make the process much faster and to be able to even identify whether these documents are accurate. For example, right now with the provisional permit system, and I want to say this, and I will continue to say it while I have these opportunities, persons who feel that they can continue to submit fraudulent documents to the licensing office, we have means of checking those documents. So when you want to falsify a utility bill and it doesn't, and for some reason that bill fail to satisfy the requirement for what you can easily test at TSTT website, at WASA website, then you're in trouble. Fraud squad will knock your door. And therefore we are saying that because of those situations, our system in itself is bringing that level of data clean and data sanity within the environment.
Okay. So is it then the vision for licensing office, for the division itself, is it that we're going through a total digital transformation? You know, we've had those 2 words bandied about, you know, when we're dealing with public offices and public services. So is it that everything that we do within the licensing division can be accessed either online or via the kiosk?
And thank you again. There are a number of services at licensing which by law you have to be on site. For example, to inspect a vehicle, you have to be on site for the vehicle to be inspected. To register a vehicle, an inspector needs to see that vehicle and confirm. I need to look at that chassis number and make sure that is what is required. And I'm saying, though, there are some services you can't really digitize in that aspect because part of the function requires that, but you could digitize a number of function or processes towards that final input that will make it much easier for the customer. Renewal of driver's permit, on the other hand. Now, we start planning for renewal of driver's permit for quite a while. The very change in the new driver's license by allowing that so-called white background that gives that level of transparency. You know, traditionally, you will have a red and a green background, etc. Because based on the old manual system, one interpreted the fact that the law say that a class 3 permit must be indicated by red. So with the black and white system and the laminate system, they use that as a means of identifying. Under the new system, no, we simply put a dot, a box, and say it's red. You know, so we have been changing our system and processes quite a while to go fully online and as well to go online on a partial basis in certain areas. So, and then finally, we have to keep in mind that the licensing office offers 2 major products. One, it's centralized on driver's permit transaction and that on vehicle transaction. So on the vehicles, you have inspection, change of color, change of engine, transfers, as well as and many more. Under the driver's permit transaction, you have renewals, you have provisional, you have driving tests, and all of these things we are seeking to how we could implement technology for monitoring and so on. You know, I get excited when I talk about these things. So I must talk about very soon you will see where we will be using our own vehicles as a pilot initiative to conduct driving tests. So that, and those vehicles are equipped, matter of fact, equipped with 360 degrees camera, as well as GPS device to track and ensure that vehicle would have gone to the particular location. We can replay the driving test. At the licensing office now, 95% of our dexterity tests, that's where you normally perform the L-turn or your U-turn, etc. Those dexterity areas, we currently have cameras there. So when persons complain, the officer failed me, or vice versa, we simply go back and replay. And and make our judgment call based on that. So I am happy with what is happening, and we are taking steps to provide persons that level of customer satisfaction.
Yeah, definitely moving forward into the future.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So one of the issues is the vehicle inspection stickers. One of the issues that has been in the public for a little while. Now we know that vehicles 5 years and over must be inspected. And there's the sticker that you put on the front windshield at registered garages, of course.
Yes.
I know that there have been issues, persons have been saying that they're having issues with getting the stickers themselves.
Yeah.
Is that still an issue?
Let me just say, because we are referring to the old system. The old inspection system, that's the one that was not the digitized one, not the electronic system. We use an electronic system now.
Okay.
Old system was one whereby a vehicle could have been inspected by you simply going into a vehicle testing station, showing a document that resembles that of a certified copy, and get your vehicle inspected. And whether we have sticker or not, we issue you with the certificate, and then we say later on, if we short on sticker, we'll buy the sticker and send it to the garage. They contact you. The new system, that is out of the window completely. The new system must work with the inspection sticker. So by that I mean, right away I can say we have no shortage of inspection stickers. It's an electronic one. When you go to the garage, we retrieve your data and validate it with your certified copy. So here do not go to a vehicle testing station or come to licensing with a false certified copy. We'll find you out. And as a result of that, I will say one of the best systems we have in licensing is that new electronic inspection system. We have found so many stolen vehicles because of that system. So many vehicles that are duplicated. So many vehicles that were knocked down, and we are solving major issues in light of that system. So inspection stickers is no longer an issue.
So Mr. Clarke, tell us a little bit about the stickers themselves and how they work in terms of eliminating persons from taking a sticker from a vehicle, putting it on another one. Those types of practices that used to happen. How is that being eliminated now?
Okay, well, again, a sticker is tied to two things. It's tied to the certificate, which we refer to as the inspection certificate, and it's also tied to the vehicle. So therefore, when you visit a testing station or you visit a licensing office, and we create a transaction for you in electronic device, from the time we create that transaction by accessing the vehicle registration database, it creates that identifier and links it to the sticker onto the vehicle. So what does that mean itself? The sticker has a footprint that reflects the vehicle on our electronic system. So if you remove that sticker from that vehicle, places it on another vehicle, it can be easily identified by a law enforcement officer.
Right.
In addition to that, though, one of the benefits we now have with the sticker, the very certificate itself, before, if you go to a testing station or you go to a licensing office, after that vehicle being inspected, that testing staff from the testing station or staff from licensing office normally have to go back to the back and write up into what you call a register. Literally write how many vehicles they checked, as well as to write to type up that certificate. That certificate is generated one time by simply saying print on the handheld device, and this is why it's no longer a long wait time for the customer subsequent to the inspection.
Okay. What is the fine attached to vehicles that have passed that time to be inspected?
Well, inspection carries a fixed penalty offense. So we're looking at $2,000 and as well as 6 demerit points.
6 demerit
6 demerit points. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you for some reason continue to drive a vehicle and it's not inspected, you could rack up quite easily 12 demerit points, and you find yourself into 6 months possible suspension.
Wow.
Hence we invite, and you know, but my concern as commissioner is not so much the points and the tickets. You know, it bothers me when I go on the outside and we have to issue an inspection fixed penalty notice. And why? It is because though we are not in a moratorium at this point in time. And if I am a concerned driver, I will ensure my vehicle actually reaches what meets the criteria for what is required by law, right? Ensuring inspection is in place. And therefore, I encourage persons to visit the testing stations where necessary. Come to the licensing office if you have a goods vehicle or a taxi and get your vehicle inspected.
Yeah, and it's as simple as 6 points. That's a lot.
It is, yes.
That is a lot. I mean, don't mind the $2,000 is a lot too, but the points people really cater for.
Yes, it
you
is.
know?
It is.
Now, Mr. Clarke, as we are on the topic of vehicle inspections, what are the regulations regarding tint and vehicles being registered at the licensing office?
Well, the Tint law applies for both new and old vehicles. Let me use that. It doesn't differentiate new or old. I think one of the things, though, we know is that some of the new vehicles come with what we call factory installed tint.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And we have to understand that tint carries a measurement which is required by law. We use the term VLT, visual light transmittance, which is 20 for the back windows, 35 for the front windows, that's passenger and driver, 70 for the front windshield, and as well as 35 for what you call the visor line, if I refer to the anti-glare line, right? Now the thing is though is that already you are seeing here that you have a permissible tint factor that you could work with, because a number of persons write to me thinking that I am not allowed to have no tint on my vehicle. You are allowed to have a certain percentage of tint on the vehicle. So we have a number of new vehicles that come into the country meeting that criteria, right? And therefore there is no need for permission and all of that, etc. Then also too, we have vehicles that might be factory installed, from manufacturer, that may be a bit darker, and the law allows for that. Once you write to get necessary permission, because we're not going to ask you to remove your windows. We are saying let's work with you, and you get the necessary permission, and therefore we can now ensure that level of safety. You see the issue we have with tint. I'll tell you something. When you're an officer, or you are probably someone who may just be standing on the nation's road and a vehicle stop by next to you, you're carrying out a particular exercise and you are not certain what you are faced with. It's a problem, and dark tint is an issue. Apart from that, if you are not an experienced driver and you're driving a vehicle with dark tint, you will find yourself with certain challenges and so on. So tint is a serious matter.
Do you find that when your officers go on the exercises, they find a lot of persons with that issue?
Oh yes. We continue to find persons with those issues at this point in time. What we are, I need to say this, however, that for us to enforce tint is no longer a subjective factor, in that an officer just look at your vehicle and say, your tint looking dark, boy, let me give you a ticket. You have to use a measuring device. And that measuring device must be calibrated by the Bureau of Standards for you to take that measurement. And the measuring device also allows, what we call -+3 tolerance level, right? So therefore, some tint might be a bit darker than some based on the material, etc., and so on. So therefore, the law was designed to allow that level of flexibility and to remove that subjectivity, whereby persons took advantage in the past in treating with those. And again, though, it is something that we at this point in time, we have not been issuing fixed penalty tickets for the tin, because the authorities, if I use that term, they are still finalizing the regulations relevant to the fixed penalty notices to be issued for tin. So right now, it is a summary offense.
Okay, so it's just a summary. You're not going to get
a ticket for it right now.
Anything like that?
No, not at this point in time.
Okay.
And that currently is receiving the attention of the authorities, let me put it that way.
So that should be back on stream
I
soon.
know we are moving at with all that, trying to cross all T's and
All eyes.
dot all I's relevant to that. Let me put it this way.
Right. All right. So, unfortunately, on the nation's roads, we continue to see persons in accidents, some fatal, some with very serious injuries. Most recently, we had an issue right on the Solomon Hotroy Highway where
Yes.
someone died. What is the protocol when it comes to accidents, and whether you think that you caused the accident, or you're a part of the accident, or a passerby that might want to assist on the accident? What protocol, what really is the law when it comes to persons and reacting to accidents on the road?
Okay, let me answer you on the easy part first. It's always good when we could lend some assistance in any way we can once the environment is safe, right, for John public, for the citizens. Once the environment is a safe one and you are trained, or you could provide some level of assistance from your skill, whether it's just to make a phone call to the fire service or to the TTPS, we welcome that. We also need to be mindful when it comes to accident, you have to be guided by the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act and the Insurance Act. And the Insurance Act point out to the fact that an accident must be reported at the earliest time. A matter of fact, and I think it says no longer than 24 hours to the TTPS. So that's under the insurance. When you look at the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, it talks about the importance of the driver stopping and seeking if you could lend some assistance, provide that level of support. And it even say failure to do so could one will commit an offense. So therefore it does not support hit and run, and therefore so one need to be guided by those parameters. Yeah. So again, it's left to how bad an accident is, whether a person could provide that level of professional assistance. But again, remember, it's two pieces of legislation that support how you treat an accident. That's the Insurance Act and the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act.
Okay. So what would be your advice to persons then, keeping those acts in mind? What would be your advice to persons in the instance of a road accident?
Let me tell you this. You will find yourself time to time in minor accidents. And sadly, God forbid, major ones happen here and there. We're in a real world. What bothers me as commissioner is when we face those situations and discover persons are driving illegally. You do not have the documents to drive. You have no insurance. You have no driver's permit. You are disqualified. You don't have the right permit for that class of vehicle. We have a serious problem there. That's one, because you will run into insurance commitment issues, and therefore impacting the social status of a number of persons. In addition to that, all my advice to anyone is to continue to drive safely on the nation's road. Observe the highway code, observe the speed limits, avoid the use of cell phone, encourage the use of seat belts, etc. And once we do so, I think we're on the right track.
All right, so moving on to another area that I think you might be very excited about. You mentioned some of the projects that your division is working on assiduously.
Yes.
Are there any others that you'd like to mention?
Well, I could have covered a number of them that are receiving our attention, though. There are some I cannot quite say much on because it takes a level of it will be one which the minister needs to talk about in context of policy. Let me just say, stay tuned, and where you will hear conversations soon about the new type number plates we are bringing out, and you may also hear matters regarding to the fact where persons can now apply for personalized plate, like if you want a plate, say Ayana 1, as well as you might hear where you can now apply for a special number if you want to have your vehicle register with PEF 7. Those are some projects you may hear coming on at some point in time this year, and the Minister will say much more on those later on because it requires certain policy changes and legislation.
I like the sound of Ayana one. I think I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Clarke, right? Have you found any difficulty in getting any of those projects off the ground?
Oh yes, I must say though, change is not an easy task. Change, you have to treat with culture, you have to look at financial resources, you have to look at skill set. But I will say one of the most difficult challenges I am faced with, and we are now working, we are now over those, is it's where you have projects that requires multiple agencies' involvement in making that project a success. And for example, online renewal of driver's permits, certified copies. You have to work with TT Post. You have to work with the bank. You have to work with staff at different sections of the licensing office. So you talk about training. You talk about bringing that level of synergy, and those are the ones that gives us a bit of challenge. But by and large, I think through our experience and the fact that we have covered a number of the difficult areas of those projects, we are on the point where we are now sailing through towards implementation.
Okay, good. So as we close off this rather interesting episode of Delving Deeper, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, again, I want to take the opportunity to encourage persons, yeah? Because my concern is to bring the vision to a point where persons must walk into licensing office and feel comfortable doing honest business. And therefore I encourage persons, avoid persons who come to you and ask you to pay a fee for a service. That is not required. Approach staff who are behind the counters. Someone comes to you and asks you to pay a fee that you believe it is illegal, report the matter to the TTPS, as well as report it to myself, the Commissioner. We have mechanism to treat with those, and we continue, and we ensure, I ensure you as Commissioner, we will take the steps to see if we could put a complete halt to some of this behavior within the licensing office.
All right, great. And well, that's our show. Let me thank Commissioner Clarke for joining us on another episode of Delving Deeper.
Thank you very much.
Join us again at the same time next week for another episode of Delving Deeper. I am your host, Diana Carter, and from all of us here, have a good night.